Hi, welcome back to this new module. I want to start today by looking at the brief and the outcomes of what you're going to do. I then want to move on to introducing various elements to you today, but basically I want to concentrate on research and the anatomy and something called edge loops. So we'll jump straight into it. So if we look at the Maya scene here, what we've got is a character that I've made a walk cycle for, and you will be doing this actual but you were doing it with your own character. So with your own walk cycle. You'll be making this character, and you'll be working your way through the tutorial to make this, and then you'll be doing your own walk cycle from a reference, which I'll get to in a second. So that's that. What I'm going to open and show you is some reference material. So at the moment, if I come back into here and just explain the brief a little bit more. So if I go in here and show you this. So this is an animator that I think he works at Larka Studios in America, sorry, in Canada. But he has done a series of different types of walk cycles, which you will be making the character that I've just shown you, and then animating one of these walk cycles, picking your own particular favourite, and that's the brief. So 50% of your the marks for this module will be making the character and following the tutorial, and another 50% of it will be doing an animation with the character you've made on the tutorial, doing one of these walk cycles. Okay, so that's what essentially you're doing. So there's this link here which I will download and give you this link. So what we need to do to start off with is, if you look back at the, if I just pause that, if we look back at the Maya file, where's the Maya file? Here we go. What's inside this character? If I just hide some of the background stuff, so let's get rid of some of these things. I'll leave that on there. I'll just add that and get rid of the background. If we look at the perspective view, turn the lights off. Here we go. What we've got here is a character that we can select elements of the character and rotate and create keyframes and make an animation from this character. And you'll notice inside here there are something called joints, okay? And inside here what we're doing is we're linking these joints to a control object, which then we can move around. So I can select different parts of this character and I can animate various elements of it. I can select the character's jaw and I can animate it, mouth moving, opening and closing. I can also animate the eyes. So you can see, I'm going to teach you in the following tutorials how to get to this stage. Okay. So to start off with, what we can do is, if we open up, I want to talk a little bit about reference. So what we're going to do today is we're going to be thinking about how the character is made up. So you'll notice that in that character there were, I'm going to show you this as a maximum screen, just get rid of that for a second. Here we go, that's what I want. So you'll notice that it's important to get the proportions right, and you'll notice that the joints in my character match up with joints. So if I go back to the character here, they match up, the joint here matches up to where the joint is in the normal character. So what you need to do is have a plan of what your character is going to be. Now, the tutorial takes you through a generic human character with tight-fitting clothes, and I recommend, well, you are going to be doing this. So what's really important is there's something called topology. Now, you'll notice that in my Maya file, this is like a Maya file, you can see there are loops, they're called edge loops, around where the character's joints are. And this is because, if I go back into the Maya file, so in here, if I just turn on my edge loops here, you'll notice that when I've made this character mesh, okay, these polygons, if I go in here and show you, it's these polygon objects. We're going to be using these points, so the vertices here are associated to different joints, which then in turn are moved by the rig. So what you can do is, what's important is with the topology is to put extra loops around areas that it's going to bend. So if I show you when I bend this, when I rotate the character's arm, when I let me just do that, you'll see that if I bring this up too much, and I'll do it with the finger. Actually, I'll do it with the fingers. It's probably a bit easier with the fingers. So if I rotate this hand like so, you'll notice that when it bends around here, this isn't collapsing in on itself. Okay, so this is because I've made something called skin, which is associating to the actual the vertices on this character, and they're associating with the actual joints. Okay, which means it's very, very important to have these edge loops around where the character's joints are going to be. So again, if I show you, if you look at the little picture of me, when I bend my arm, it's important that I have extra loops around the areas that I bend my arm and my legs and what have you. Okay, so when you're making a character, this is not just about how the character actually looks. This is about how the character is going to function. And you'll also notice that there are edges around the actual the muscle structure of the person. Okay, and that's because that really helps when you're moving the character, and it helps the character feel realistic when you're adhering to something called edge loops, which are these lines around the character. If I show some more examples in the face, normally there are edge loops around this area and around the eyes. And that's because they're the areas that move. And you need to mirror the natural, it's called topology, to enable you to actually make a character's face effective. So again, if I open up my scene in here, and I'll show you the face. So you'll notice in my character's face, I've got circles around the eyes and circles around the mouth. And that enables me to have an accurate representation when it's moving as well. So when I open the mouth of the character, that it actually works effectively. Okay, so again, I'll deal with that more in detail when we get to it, but I want to just explain that to start off with. Okay, so what I'm going to be showing you today in the next tutorial is how to work your way through this. I'll show you. Let me just open this Maya scene. So we're going to start off by making a series of primitives and then working our way around the character to make start to make the mesh. But I'll get to that in a second. Just to recap, I've briefly spoken about the brief. I've also discussed the sort of shown you the finished article. I talked about the body topology, and that's the really important thing here, that you understand that, you know, for example, these circles around the character's faces, the edges around the character's body and stuff. So that's the first little section. So hopefully that will be quite a straightforward thing. So what I'd like you to do is explore a little bit and to do a bit of research yourselves, understand what I'm talking about, get some examples, and start to look at some character designs. I use something called Pinterest. If I just open my Pinterest social, it doesn't have to be Pinterest. Actually, if I just open it, Pinterest. I'm not sure whether you guys can access this, but I've got basically something called, I'll find you some images, but there'll be all sorts of different examples of this. If I come in to my particular boards, I've got a character set which has got lots of different reference of different characters that I'm interested in, which I can use for reference. But you can see here these are my these are pictures that I found over the years, which are what I actually enjoy working with, and there's some kind of interesting designs which if I'm making a character, for example, I made an octopus recently, and I I might have even got an octopus Pinterest board in here. Let me just have a look. So, in fact, I'm almost certain that I did. But yeah, here we go. So I made an octopus character recently, and I went and found some really inspirational artwork on that. And you can see there's certain elements that I quite like, and when I'm designing my own character, I would use these as a reference. And the same thing with the character. So what I'd like you to do is get, you don't have to do a Pinterest board, but you can get a list of characters. So here we go, there's a cowboy one here for various different cowboy bits and bobs, and other characters. So that's it. I don't want to make this too long, so I'll leave that there, but essentially I'd like you to get some images together.